Hey everybody, welcome to my channel if you're new, or welcome back if you're not new. My name is Amy and I'm on a 120-pound weight loss journey. We are halfway through that, and today we're going to be talking about habits. In this video, we're going to be going through how habits are formed. Now, we're not going to be talking about what habits make for a healthy person, what habits you should do on a day-to-day basis. We're going to be talking about how behavior science has actually broken these down into how habits are formed. And I'm going to be using a lot of different material for this if you see me looking down at my notes, but I'm mainly going to be pulling this from James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, and he has done a lot of extensive research on this, of course, and I will link his website and the Atomic Habits book down below. Atomic Habits is probably one of my favorite books ever written. It is so easy to read and so impactful, and I'm reading it again right now actually, and it's so good, and he's so funny, and I think that it's just a great resource. And so I've pulled a lot from his website, but I've also done my own research. So I'm going to link everything that I use for this video down below in case you want to learn more, read it for yourself. But we're just going to be talking about how habits are formed today and what that scientific process looks like as far as behavior goes. So habit formation has been studied for hundreds of years, and there are so many different theories and thought processes behind it, and there are so many different interventions for it, and it's just really a complex thing that can be broken down quite simply, honestly. But there are a lot of different schools of thought for behavior change, but this one makes the most sense, and it kind of brings them together. So you're going to see a lot of different information out there, but these four core things are really what's going to drive habit creation. And then we're going to talk about how you can make it easier to form a habit or to break a habit, whichever one you're looking to do. So I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but I'm just going to tell you how habits are actually formed and made, and maybe that'll help you. If you're looking for actually how to incorporate this into your life and how to maybe start thinking about making it easiest to form a habit and things like that, I recommend listening to Chelsea McCullen's podcast, Lead with Plants. I will link it down below. She has several wonderful episodes on this. She studies behavior change as well. And so I want you guys to really check that out. And a great one is about sequencing. And then you've got habit stacking. So there's a lot of things I'm not going to cover in this video, because if I did, it would be hours long. So I actually learned this too in college in my behavioral health classes. So it's just kind of it's fun for me to talk about, and I really enjoy it, and I think this could be really helpful. Again, it's one of those sciencey videos, so totally understand if that's not your thing, but I think this could be really helpful. And we're not talking about the brain here. We're not talking about how neurons are firing and synapses, and we're not talking about all these things. We are just going to be talking about the actual behavioral process. We're not getting down to the atomic level here. So, what is a habit? A habit is a process that generates a behavior, and this process is going to continue even when the original motivational force behind that habit no longer exists. So a habit is something that is going to continue when that original reason for developing it goes away. When your original motivation just goes out the window, you're still going to continue it because it is something that you have developed, and it's something that's part of your routine, and it's literally like it's on autopilot. I don't think about brushing my teeth every day. I don't think about putting in my contacts every day. I don't think about any of those things because I've done them for years, right? So even if something originally that was motivating you goes away, a habit's something that's going to persist until you make a conscious decision that you no longer want to do that. So there are 4 stages to a habit being formed, and this is called the habit loop, and it always goes in this particular order, and it's a sequence of time. So you first have the cue, and then we're going to go into these individually. You have the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. And over time, it's how it goes. So you start always with the cue and you end with the reward, and then, it kind of starts over. A cue triggers your brain to initiate a behavior. So the cue comes before the craving, okay? So something must happen before you to realize that you wanted something. So a cue is what starts something off. So say we're in like an office building and you're walking down the hallway and you walk past the break room and you smell coffee. Okay, so the cue is you smelled the coffee. A craving, then, is the next step. It is the motivational force behind every habit. So the craving is not what you don't crave the habit itself. You don't crave the response. You're not craving something like an actual action, but what happens after the action. Okay, so I walk past the break room and I smell the coffee. Now, if you don't like coffee, it's not going to apply to you, but we're going to say you're a coffee lover, okay? You smell the coffee, and you're like, wow, I would really love a cup of coffee. That sounds so good to me right now. I'm feeling kind of, you're not really feeling tired. You're just walking by, so it's not the tiredness that's the cue. It is the walking past it and the smell. So you smell the coffee, you go, you know what? I think I'd really like to taste a cup of coffee right now. Okay, so that we're on step 2. Step 3 is the response. It is the actual habit that you perform. This can be a thought or an action. We have conversational habits and we have actual physical habits through a particular action. So the response, though, and whether a habit is formed or not, can depend on a few things. Do you physically or do you have the capability to actually do that? Just because I want to dunk a basketball from half court doesn't mean I actually have the capability to do that. So it's going to depend on your ability to do something. It's also going to depend on how much friction is associated with that action. So if I really wanted coffee, but say I wasn't in the break room where coffee actually is, or say, for example, people in the break room have coffee, but they brought coffee in from like Starbucks or something, am I really willing to go to Starbucks to get it? And then the next thing is going to be how motivated you are. Again, do I actually really like coffee enough to go do the habit? Or go do the action. So those 3 things are going to depend on whether you actually respond or not, or are able to respond to this craving. And then you've got the reward. So those are going to depend on whether you're able to actually respond to the craving. So for the coffee, the cue, I smell the coffee. The craving, this coffee would taste really good right now. The response, I go into the break room. There is coffee, so I pour myself a cup of coffee. That is the actual response. Pouring the coffee. Okay? The reward is the end goal of every habit. And it's what is going to satisfy us. You have poured your coffee. You have put your cream in it. If you use cream, you've done whatever you want to it. And you take that first sip of coffee. And that is your reward. So, the habit continues. Tomorrow you come into the office, you walk past the break room. You're not really a big coffee drinker yet, but you like coffee, so you smell the coffee. Coffee sounds really good. And so you go into the break room, somebody's made a pot of coffee, you pour the coffee, and you drink the coffee, and you're happy, and you feel good about it. And so once you've done that a few times, you're going to just initially, when you go in the building, and you go towards the break room, that's the first thing you're going to do is you're just going to go get the coffee because that is what you have ingrained your mind to do. You associate with walking past the break room to getting the coffee and tasting the coffee. So, those 4 things are what goes into a habit being created. And we can use this in all aspects of our life. And they can be small habits. And that's what this is about. It's about whenever you learn to brush your teeth and you started brushing your teeth, that was a habit that you had to develop. Now I'm pretty sure you probably just go brush your teeth every morning because that is what you do. You don't even have to think about it. And a habit is something that eventually becomes on autopilot whenever you do it. Okay, let me give you a good example. So whenever, in my house, I have these like little, people call them fairy lights. They're basically like little Christmas string lights. And I plug them in every morning. So the cue was, I came downstairs one day and I noticed, it's kind of dark and dreary. Craving, I want it to be light and bright. The response, I plugged in the fairy lights. The reward, wow, this is really pretty and the lights are beautiful and it's bright down here. So I did that a few times, and now what do I do every morning? I go down and I turn on the lights. It is autopilot. I don't even think about it. It's the first thing that I do. And that's exactly how a habit is formed. There is always a cue, a craving, a response, and a reward associated with it. Even if you don't think about it anymore, right? Brushing your teeth every morning. My teeth are dirty. I feel kind of weird. I'd really like clean teeth. You brush your teeth, much better. But you don't think about that. You don't think about that process. You just do it. It's just something that happens. And that's exactly what a habit is. It is something that you can form, obviously. Habits are formed and broken all the time. Some habits are not, and you can break a big habit into smaller ones too. And that's what I wanted you to maybe listen to Chelsea's podcast about, is habit stacking and sequencing and how to make habit formation easier. And we're not talking about right now, exactly how to do that. But for example, if I wanted to get better at flossing every night, I would sequence it somewhere that makes sense, right? So when you're trying to form a habit, sticking a habit randomly in your day is not always going to work out. So if I want to get better at flossing, it does not make any sense for me to go, I'm doing my work and then I want to floss every day at 2:00. And then I'm just going to magically notice it's 2:00 or set an alarm and go floss. No. The best way for me to form that habit is to sequence it with something that already exists and that I can do it with. And I don't even think about those other habits. I just insert this habit somewhere. So flossing, I brush my teeth every day. Okay, I got my floss in the bathroom. So I go, okay, I've brushed my teeth. Oh yeah, I'm going to floss. And you do that, and then you do it a few times, and then you don't even have to think about it. It becomes part of your routine. So when you're creating a habit, they always happen in these 4 steps, in this loop. But you do want you want to make it something that makes sense. And that's where it comes into the 4 laws of behavior change that James Clear goes over. And we're going to talk about how he says to make a habit stick, right? So the first thing, of course, is a cue, and that is to make it obvious. So if you want to eat vegetables at breakfast every day, which I eat vegetables at breakfast every day, but I didn't always do this, right? Okay. Whenever I go for breakfast, I open my fridge. And so what do I see when I open my fridge? I have my broccoli in a container, prepped and right there in my face. Okay, it is obvious. The second thing for the craving is make it attractive. I actually really like broccoli. If I were to put celery in a container, there is 0 chance that would get eaten, right? So forming a habit has to be something that you actually want to do. If you're going to want to eat a vegetable in the morning, make it a vegetable you like. Okay, people are all the time saying, well, I should eat this because it's healthy, but you hate it. Don't do that, because you won't actually do it. So make it attractive. Make it something that you can enjoy. Make it easy. It's already prepped. I don't have to do anything but stick it in the microwave. That's the response. My response, it is going to be much harder for me to form this habit of eating my vegetable in the morning if I have a whole head of broccoli on the stalk and then I have to go and take a knife and cut all the little heads off and wash them and then cook them. It makes a lot more sense, and it makes it so much easier if it's already in a container in the fridge. All I do is pull out the container, I take the lid off, and I stick it in the microwave. And the reward is make it satisfying. So it's hot, it's delicious. I put a little salt and lemon on it, and 10 out of 10. So those are the 4 laws of behavior change. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. So if you want to incorporate this is a very, again, rudimentary example, but if you want to incorporate vegetables in your daily life every day, make it obvious. Whenever you open the fridge, instead of it being full of desserts and junk food and all these other things, when you open your fridge, your vegetable is right there. Make it attractive. It's pretty. It's a vegetable I like. I love how broccoli looks, by the way, when it's cooked. I don't know. It's a beautiful green color. It's also in a container that I think is nice. Make it easy. All I have to do is take the lid off, put it in the microwave. No cutting, no nothing involved. Make it satisfying. So good. Hot, fresh broccoli, freshly steamed, and it's got some lemon and salt on it. That to me is delicious. It was easy. It was ready for me, and I'm going to eat it every day. Now, of course, that required me to do some meal prepping, which is another thing. But for this example, you get what I'm saying. So I had the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. So I made my cue obvious. Okay? I made my craving attractive, the response made it easy, and the reward made it satisfying. That is how you form a habit. Now, if you want to break a not so great healthy habit, we say, you're going to do the opposite. You're going to invert that. So if you want to break a bad habit, you make it invisible, right? So I want to stop eating so many chips. Okay, for example. I have this habit, we'll just throw this example. I have this habit of between breakfast and lunch, I eat chips as a snack. Well, I stopped buying chips, okay? So that makes it invisible. Or if you have chips in your house because you have other household members who eat chips, you hide them. You put it really far up in the cabinet and in the back and you don't even see it. Make it unattractive. Chips, I feel like it's hard to make it attractive. But I think about it like, how do I feel about chips when I eat them? You know? Ugh. Look at, like, maybe think about the nutrition label. I don't know. And all the fat that's in chips and how deep fried it is. And, like, think about that. Make it difficult. Okay, if I really wanted these chips for my snack between breakfast and lunch, I would have to go to the store to get them because they're not in my house. So that's difficult. Or they're in the back of the pantry at the top, and I would have to get a step ladder to go get them. Okay, that makes it difficult. Make it unsatisfying. Well, when I eat the chips, I do feel like crap. And then I'm hungry 5 minutes later. Okay? So that's a bad habit. So when you're breaking that, you can also replace it with a good one. So I go through those 4 steps in my head with the chips, right? But then we go through the same 4 steps, but with fruit. The cue, it's about snack time. And I'm getting hungry. Craving, man, I really want something to eat right now. Okay. The response, I go in the fridge and I grab an apple. I like my apples cold. You can put them on the counter. Reward, make it satisfying. I'm not hungry anymore and I don't feel gross. So how do we replace breaking the chip habit with the apple habit? The chips, they're out of sight. I would have to go to the store to get some if I wanted them. They made me feel gross, full of sodium. The apple, it's already been washed. It's in the fruit drawer. I don't have to open anything. I don't have to portion anything out. I literally take the apple freshly washed out of the fruit drawer. It's nice and cold. That's what makes it attractive to me, is it's cold. If there's an apple on the counter, I'm probably not going to eat it. If there's an apple in the fridge, I'm going to eat it. So you see what we do there? I go to the fridge, I grab the apple, I eat the apple. No effort involved. It's easy. It tastes good, and it makes me feel good. So I know that was a lot about behavior change, but I really did think that was important. So let's recap. We have the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. Those are the 4 things you need to make a habit. The response is always going to be the actual action that you take to form this habit. how long it takes you to form a habit is going to be different for each person, I feel like. So that's how habits are formed. Like I said, I wasn't going to go into the actual brain makeup in what neurotransmitters are involved, neurons firing, synapses. We're not going into that. We're not going into the actual anatomical and chemical reactions that happen in your body to make a habit. We're not talking about you thinking about moving your hand to grab the apple. No. These are the behavioral changes that have to occur, or behavioral cues and signals that have to occur for a habit to be made or for a habit to be broken. I hope this was helpful. Let me know down below. You can also share with me if you have any particular habits that you are interested in forming or breaking, because we all have some, I feel like, all the time. And we are always forming new habits, you know. Like I said, the light thing was a new thing because it's actually not really dark in my house. I have a lot of windows. So I haven't been turning on those little fairy lights all the time. But then once I turn them on and I start turning them on, I realize I like them on. Now I do it every day. So we're constantly forming new habits and breaking them. Okay? So that is just what I want to leave you with today. Thank you for watching. I hope you did enjoy this. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification so you get notified every time I upload a new video. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.